Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, I have a story for you, not just for your listening practice, but also to inspire you. This story is called The Library Computer That Changed My Career, and it shows that sometimes the smallest, most unlikely tool you have access to can become the beginning of an entirely new life. There was a young man named David, 26 years old, working as a delivery driver in a mid-sized city. Every morning, he woke up at 5, loaded boxes into his van, and drove the same routes, day after day, month after month. It wasn't a bad job. It paid his bills. But every evening, sitting alone in his small rented room, David felt a quiet, persistent ache, the feeling that his life was supposed to include something more, something he hadn't found yet. David had dropped out of college 2 years earlier. Money had run out, his father had gotten sick, and someone needed to work full-time to help cover medical bills. He never regretted taking care of his family, but part of him had never fully let go of the dream he walked away from that year. The dream of building things with computers, of writing code that actually did something in the world. One rainy Tuesday evening, after finishing his last delivery, David walked past the public library near his apartment. The lights were still on. On an impulse, more from boredom than ambition, he walked inside. In the back corner, past the bookshelves, there were 6 old computers available for public use, mostly used by students doing homework or people checking email. David sat down at one of them and, without really planning to, typed into the search bar, "How to learn coding for free." He found a video, then another, then a full course, completely free, teaching the basics of web development. He watched for 2 hours, until the librarian gently told him the library was closing. That night, walking home in the rain, something in David felt different. Not excited exactly, more like a small door had opened somewhere he had forgotten existed. He went back the next evening, and the evening after that. His routine became almost sacred. Wake up at 5, deliver packages until 6 in the evening, eat something quick, then walk straight to the library until it closed at 9. 3 hours a night, 5 nights a week, sitting at a public computer, learning one small piece of code at a time. Progress was slow, painfully slow at first. David didn't understand basic concepts that seemed obvious to everyone else in the video tutorials. He would type in exactly what the instructor typed, run the code, and watch it fail with a red error message he didn't understand. Some nights he left the library more frustrated than when he arrived, wondering if this was just another dream he wasn't cut out for. One evening, after nearly 2 months of practice, David spent almost the entire session trying to fix a single broken line of code for a small practice website he was building. A simple page that was supposed to show a list of his favorite books. It kept crashing. He tried everything he could think of. Nothing worked. Frustrated, he almost closed the laptop for good that night. But an older man sitting at the next computer, who had noticed David's frustration over several evenings, leaned over and asked quietly, "Mind if I take a look?" His name was Walter, a retired software engineer who came to the library most evenings simply because he enjoyed being around people and books. Walter looked at David's screen for less than a minute and pointed to a missing comma, one tiny punctuation mark hidden in a long block of code. "Programming," Walter said, "is mostly about patience with tiny invisible things like that. It's not about being brilliant. It's about being willing to look carefully, again and again, until you find what everyone else missed." That sentence stayed with David for the rest of his journey. From that night on, Walter became something like an informal mentor. Not through any formal arrangement, just 2 people who happened to sit near each other in the same corner of a public library several nights a week. Walter would answer questions when David got stuck, point him toward better learning resources, and occasionally challenge him with a small project slightly harder than what David thought he was ready for. 6 months into this new routine, David built his first complete website from scratch, a simple scheduling tool for a small local bakery that agreed to let him build something for them for free, just for the experience. It wasn't fancy, it didn't need to be, but watching real people, actual customers, use something he had built with his own hands filled David with a kind of pride he hadn't expected. He kept building. A small inventory tracker for a hardware store, a simple booking page for a hair salon. Each project taught him something new, and slowly, word began to spread through his small network of local business owners that there was a young man who could build simple, useful websites for a fair price. But the road wasn't smooth. David still worked his full delivery job during the day, which meant most of his coding happened late at night, often until midnight, then waking again at 5 for deliveries. There were stretches where exhaustion nearly broke his resolve. One month, he got sick with the flu and missed almost 2 weeks of library visits entirely, falling behind on a freelance project he had promised to finish for a small client. He remembers sitting in bed, feverish, genuinely wondering if he should just accept that this dream simply wasn't meant for someone in his situation. Walter, hearing about this through a mutual friend at the library, sent him a short message. Everyone who has ever built something worth having has had a week like the one you're having right now. The only real failure is deciding this week defines the whole story. David returned to the library as soon as he recovered, slower than before, but determined not to quit. He finished the delayed project, apologized to the client for the delay, and to his surprise, the client thanked him for his honesty and hired him again for a second project a few months later. After nearly 2 years of this double life, delivery driver by day, self-taught developer by night, David had built a small portfolio of 9 completed projects for local businesses. He had saved a little money, not much, but enough to take a serious risk. He applied for an entry-level web developer position at a small technology company in his city, a company that, notably, didn't require a college degree, only a portfolio and proof of real skill. The interview was nerve-wracking. David sat across from 2 interviewers, convinced they would see straight through him, convinced his self-taught library computer education couldn't possibly measure up to candidates with formal degrees. But when he showed them his projects, walked them through the decisions he had made, the mistakes he had fixed, the bakery owner who still used his scheduling tool every single day, something shifted in the room. They weren't just seeing code. They were seeing 2 years of relentless, unpaid, exhausted persistence. He got the job. David still remembers his first day at the office, sitting at an actual desk with 2 monitors, more computing power than he had ever had access to in his life. He thought about all those evenings at the library, squinting at a small, slow public computer, fixing one invisible comma at a time. A year later, David still visits that same library sometimes, not to learn anymore, but to help. He noticed a teenager sitting in the same corner where he used to sit, staring frustrated at a screen full of error messages. David sat down beside him, the way Walter once sat beside David, and asked quietly, "Mind if I take a look?" David's story teaches us a few important lessons. 1, you don't need perfect resources to begin. You need consistent access and consistent effort, even if that access is 6 shared computers in the back of a public library. 2, mentors don't always arrive through formal programs. Sometimes they simply sit down beside you and notice you're struggling. 3, setbacks like illness or a difficult week don't erase the progress you've already made. They only feel that way in the moment. 4, the smallest, most overlooked resources in your community, a library, a free tutorial, a stranger willing to help, can quietly become the foundation of an entirely new career. Now, it's time to learn vocabulary from today's story. Persistent means continuing firmly despite difficulty. Example, he felt a persistent ache for something more. Impulse means a sudden desire to do something without much thought. Example, he walked in on an impulse. Resolve means firm determination to do something. Example, exhaustion nearly broke his resolve. Mentor means someone who guides and advises a less experienced person. Example, Walter became an informal mentor. Portfolio means a collection of work that shows someone's skills. Example, he built a small portfolio of 9 projects. Freelance means working independently for different clients rather than one employer. Example, he worked on a freelance project. Nerve-wracking means causing anxiety or nervousness. Example, the interview was nerve-wracking. Consistent means happening the same way over time, reliably. Example, he needed consistent access and consistent effort. Overlooked means not noticed or not given enough attention. Example, the library was an overlooked resource in his community. Foundation means the basic structure that something is built upon. Example, it became the foundation of his new career. Try to use these words in your own sentences. That is one of the best ways to remember them. Now, let's practice speaking. Repeat after me, slowly and clearly. I found something small that changed everything. I showed up even when progress felt slow. Someone noticed me struggling and helped. A hard week did not erase my progress. I built something real, one mistake at a time. Now, I have a few questions for you. Have you ever found an unexpected resource that changed your path? Has a stranger ever helped you at exactly the right moment? What is the library computer in your own life right now? The small, overlooked tool you could be using more? Please write your answers in the comments. I would love to read them. If this story motivated you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring English stories. Take care, keep learning, and I will see you next time.